It's time for Ball Talk with Sanford and Johnny. From what's happening on the blue at Boise State to the Mountain West and beyond. The biggest storylines, the best guests, and most outlandish opinions from two dudes who eat, sleep, and breathe college football. Today's broadcast is coming from the Cutwater Spirits Canned Cocktail Studios. Check out one of their more than 30 flavors of pre-mixed premium cocktails at your local gas station or grocery store. Cutwater Canned Cocktails is perfect for your next game day tailgate party. Ball Talk with Sanford and Johnny, featuring former Boise State quarterback and longtime coach Mike Sanford, and KTIK 95.3 FM The Ticket's Johnny Mallory on Bronco Nation News.
Here we are. We actually have games to talk about this week. Big welcome to everybody viewing now live or will be at some point to Ball Talk. Sanford and Johnny. I'm Johnny Mallory. I got Coach Mike Sanford of 2014 Fiesta Bowl fame, longtime coach, and as you heard, former Boise State quarterback. Coach, episode 4 already. These are really piling up, man. How's it going, man?
Man, it's going well. Licking my wounds as a first-time Boise State fan with really nobody else to worry that much about. Except for my alma mater, licking my wounds, even kind of eating a little bit of crow about some of my picks. But hey, I'll never apologize for picking the Broncos, especially for a big upset win. So we'll have a lot to talk about today, and I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Absolutely. And this, you guys, if you're watching it and you've been watching Ball Talk, this is going to look a little different. This is kind of our true vision, being able to, for us to be able to bring to you in week 4. We have games to talk about, Boise State having played over the weekend. So this was kind of the road we envisioned going down. The first three shows, just kind of a getting to know you type of thing, getting ready for college football. So here's how we're going to operate in Ball Talk this point moving forward. Coach, before we do get into it, you played college football beginning in the year 2000 on the blue. You left the Broncos after the 2004 season and immediately began coaching every single season since until now, 2023, this Labor Day weekend, week 1 on the college football calendar. How'd you like it? How did you get this, switching channels back and forth, watching your guys? I mean, how did you take it all in, being a fan now, analyst, broadcaster?
Well, it was a fire hose, man, of ball. There's a lot of ball to be watched, a lot of ball to be consumed, and really Thursday all the way up until tonight, right? I mean, it really hasn't stopped. It's been football palooza. Saturday was my son Gunner's birthday party. Today's his actual birthday. Happy birthday, Gunner. He's 9. But so I had to kind of balance leaving at halftime of the Boise State game, going to the Bounce Empire for the birthday party. Had it put on in our little, we had a room for the party, so I had the TV on. So I'm kind of going between, singing happy birthday, being engaged, and also watching what was on the screen. And a lot of the bad stuff happened when I wasn't giving my full undivided attention to the Broncos. So I promised Bronco Nation this week for 4 quarters, I'm going to give my undivided attention to the Boise State Broncos because I feel like I let them down a little bit.
Well, maybe in live action, but you went back and watched the tape. I don't even know if you had access to some all 22 somewhere, Coach. You probably did. We're going to get to some of this because part of Ball Talk, we want Coach Sanford being Coach Sanford. He was a head coach in the Pac-12 just last year. We want to know why what happened. So Coach today is going to give us clips of Washington, Boise State, and also clips of UCF, the Broncos' opponent, of course, Saturday for the home opener on the blue. And in between, a little prime talk, a little college football here and there. So that's what we're going to do today and kind of moving forward. But this might be, in my opinion, I have a feeling, Coach, this is going to be the best segment of every episode of Ball Talk. BJ Rains is producing this show, so he's on the line as well, but it's going to be called the San Rant. Coach Sanford ranting on whatever topics he feels the need attention. And I think we got a lot of Boise State in this week's Sand Rant. Coach, the floor is yours, my brother.
Well, first off, I'm going to talk to Bronco Nation. Okay. Bronco Nation, there's no fan base like you in all of college football. I've traveled this country long and far to different conferences, Power 5 conferences, Notre Dame, and there truly is no fan base like Bronco Nation. And I love you. Okay. However, I will say during my coaching career and playing career combined, our record was 66-11, right? And that sounds really good, but what has been the unfortunate byproduct of those wins over the course of 1998 until now is Bronco Nation, you're a little bit spoiled. And I've seen that. And that's a blessing and it's a curse, and to me, this is the week where Bronco Nation has got to show up in droves, voicing your opinion, all good. Taking it out on, whatever you may need to take it out on, all good. But let's get those butts in the seats and let's fill up Albertson Stadium, because I think that this team, this program needs the fans that aren't just there when things are good, but is there through thick and thin. So Bronco Nation, show up big, show up loud, and just get your engines revved up for some blue chaos. Second off, I want to talk to the players at Boise State. I was one of you. I was in your exact same seats, and you're in the lockers, that same helmets, same colors. And obviously we didn't start the season out the way we wanted to. We all know that. There's plays that you all wanted back. But I do really think that this mentality that Coach Avalos, that Andy's preaching to all of you, is you just got to move on to the next play. And it's not even the next game. It's the next play. And the next play starts with practice. Tomorrow's a huge day, getting back out on the blue, protecting the blue. And it really starts with how you practice, how you bounce back, the mentality, the energy, the attitude you take to the practice field tomorrow. Tomorrow's a big day. And so take it one play at a time. And I'm not talking about on Saturday. I'm talking about each and every play you get, whether you're a scout team player, whether you're signaling, it doesn't matter. Pour yourself into it. Take it one play at a time. And lastly, I want to talk to the coaches. I too have been one of you. And I would give this advice from my career, having been at the highs of the heights, that I've been in some tough valleys as well. When it's really good, it's a temptation to see what everybody's saying about you, peeking on Twitter or X or whatever they call it. But when it's not great, which obviously nobody's happy with, especially the coaches, many of which are former teammates of mine, good friends, what I would say to you is this: delete that X app, the Twitter app, from your phone. You don't have to get rid of your account. Just delete it and truly block out the noise and do everything that you've been trained to do, because you've all been trained incredibly well to just continue to put these players in the best place that they can possibly be on each and every play. And I have full confidence in you that we can get that done. And most of all, I'm just looking forward to a great recovery. We have a great response from this Boise State team on Saturday at 5:00 in Albertson Stadium. Like I said, Bronco Nation, I'm now one of you, truly one of you as a fan. Let's show up. Let's show out. Let's be loud. Let's bleed blue. And that's all we got.
I love it, man. You've addressed locker rooms. You've addressed team meeting rooms. You've been in press conferences. Where did that rank kind of on the nerves and the heart pumpage there, Coach Sanford? Your first Sand Rant.
I think it was probably up there just because I was looking at this tiny little camera instead of a big group of people. So it's a bit of a different set of circumstances, but that I'm looking forward, whatever it may be as this year goes on. I wanted to have a chance to address, whatever needs to be addressed. And it could be something unrelated to Boise State, but I think this is a week where we all need to truly come together as a Bronco family. And I think that will happen.
Did you have a chance, before we get into the clips that you want to break down and make us all a hell of a lot smarter about what happened on Saturday? I know you pay some attention to the Monday press conferences with Andy Bush and Spencer Danielson. Were you able to catch any of that today? And what were your takeaways there, Coach Sanford?
Yeah, Johnny, I watched them all in its entirety, having been through that as a head coach and as a coordinator many, many times. I think you can read a lot into what's going on. A lot of his body language. And the two standouts to me were Spencer Danielson with his conviction of extreme ownership and accountability. It's an old saying that Harsh used to tell us is, when you're responsible for something, it's my ass is on the line. So it's my hands that are responsible for it. So that was what we always said was my ass, my hands. And Spencer Danielson, he defined that today. Extreme ownership, didn't put one player under the bus, just completely leaned into everything. And I have a confidence in him as a Bronco alum that he's gonna right the ship. And then same thing with Bush Hamden. I saw a lot of accountability, which is all you can do as a coach. We're the true paid professionals as a coach, and that's what we do. We all feel that burden. But I love those two in particular and the type of ownership they took. Spencer from a very clearly defined, I think he said that's on me over 50 times in his 22 minutes of airtime. And Bush was very analytical about getting back to what we did best. And I have full confidence that Bush will do that. You can't forget, this is a new offense. It's not the identical offense that they were running at the beginning of the season with Tim Plow and at the end of the season with Dirk Cutter. And you happen to open up versus one of the best teams, if not, maybe the top team in the Pac-12.
I will say this too to all of our viewers, and if you're watching live, good for you, Ball Talk, Sanford and Johnny. If you want to type a question for Coach, I don't care if it's, why were they slipping to why didn't Taylor Green run more? All these questions that I'm seeing on social media from Bronco Nation, type that into the chat here on Ball Talk. Type the word question first. That way we can decipher it, Coach, from all the bumble turds that are texting here and there, and all kidding aside. But yeah, type in question, and then maybe we can get to some of those. I have some, but I think my questions might be better served after we do our first film session edition. So this is Coach Sanford with Washington, Boise State on Saturday. BJ, I don't know if you want to roll that clip. Coach, talk about it a little bit. And again, the floor is yours. Tell us why the hell happened, why it happened.
Well, I'd say starting off, the game started with a ton of optimism. This opening drive, this opening sequence here. What you saw you saw a pass rush. Look at you getting Michael Penix Jr. off his spot, big time finish. It was suffocating early. And I thought we matched up, and I was very optimistic about our ability to go toe to toe. And then you see here, this stiff arm by Ashton Jeanty reminded me so much of Jay Ajayi in the Fiesta Bowl, and the stiff arm he laid on the Statue of Liberty in 2014. This kid's got to play. He's got to be a war daddy. But you're going to see why he maybe hasn't played as much. And this is when things started changing. Look, completely easy pass rush. That's a good look right there. Our outside backer playing in an apex position cannot allow him to cross his face. Okay, here's Talon. Screen game was fantastic. Okay, two very critical plays in the screen game. I would like to see Ashton just make a move, get back to the inside, but I think Washington's so well coached and taking away leverage. But great misdirection, play design. We hit a screen very similar to that to open the game against New Mexico in 2014. And I think Jay went 80 yards, 75 yards to start that game when we got the first possession offensively.
Nice.
All right, this is what I saw. All right, so everybody is on my man number 34 right now. What I saw is a technique that's easily fixable. That's a cover 3 or cover 4 adjustment. He just took a bad angle, and that's an easy fix. All right, now you're starting to see what I didn't love about some of Talon's pocket presence in this game was you could tell he didn't seem extremely comfortable. There's an opportunity to kind of sit and settle in that area, and that's an opportunity for Ashton Jeanty to block physically, and he did turn it down. But the thing about Ashton Jeanty right now is he will come back with these types of dynamic plays, the speed to finish, the power in his lower half. There were some very positive things to take away, particularly in these first 2 quarters of football, obviously until the floodgates open in that 28-point second quarter. But I love that move right there. Athletes in space. He's clearly one of our best athletes. Make you miss, run through arm tackles. I assume that he's going to continue to be featured prominently. Just the subtlety in the pocket. You can see here, I think that early on there were some bracket ideas on Rome Odunze. And you can see McMillan, Polk, these guys started to eat. Really good job on Michael Penix holding the safety, just giving enough time with his own vision to be able to drop that ball in there without any safety help. You can see just in stride, 58 yards in the air. And now we have Michael Penix Jr. with elite ball placement on a back shoulder fade. When a corner overcommits to playing the top down aspect of a you can see Roma Dunze doing what he does. Okay. And then this became an area that I was a little bit concerned with. You can see the safety there, how he fit in that unbalanced formation, wildcat. It changes your run fits. And you can see right here, 34, he's got to fit inside of 10 because he was wrong shouldering it and spilling it inside to a safety fit.
This is the doghouse. Tough place to play, huh, Coach?
Extremely challenging. I did see some positive things here. Eric McAllister showed up, sure-handed, made a lot of nice catches. I think he's going to gain even more confidence and run after catch abilities. This right here is just it's a smart football team. It's a veteran football team. A week ago, I talked about their veteran leadership. You go to the screen game a third time, it's kind of like one of those shame on me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah.
And Washington really sniffed out that screen after the two big ones early. So I think there's plenty of positives to take away. My number one positive, Johnny, that I would take away was the line play. I thought we held up. Offensive line was particularly good. One of my question marks was the center position. I thought he played incredibly well. I like this offensive line against what was probably the biggest test that they'll see in terms of just brute strength and experience in the front lines.
I have a question here, and BJ producing this, if you want to throw on a couple of questions from some of the viewers as well, we can get Coach to answer a couple of these quickly before we get into the UCF clips a little later in Ball Talk and going to talk about Coach Prime and some other stuff around the world of college football. And I want to get your opinion on this, Coach. It felt to me that Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer and Michael Penix, that brain trust, they want, obviously, to do what they do best. And for them, it's splash plays. It's go deep. It's drive the ball. It is attack. And it felt like, I don't know, after the first several possessions, which I think Boise State did a pretty good job, I don't know if it's something clicked with Washington. I don't know if it's something that Ryan Grubb, Kalen DeBoer, or Michael Penix found out or saw or made an adjustment on, because it felt like once they did that, the aerial clinic of college football that these three continue to put on, they might have been at their apex, at their best. I don't know if I've seen them that good throwing the football, especially a week one, no jitters whatsoever. It felt like you've been in these situations. In your opinion, was it something that Washington saw and said, okay, they're going to do this, well, we're going to do that then, and it's exactly what we want to do and what we do best, and Boise State could not slow Washington down at exactly what they wanted to do?
What I saw, and I'm seeing some questions here. Sky Ship asked a fantastic question. What advice adjustment would you give the free safety and boundary safety going into the UCF game in terms of vertical route coverage? Teach us, Coach. Based off the clips that I saw, the middle of the field, down the field, was the area that became a problematic area for the secondary as that second quarter got to the point of being catastrophic. And within that, you see cover 4 as kind of the general structure of what Boise State's doing in quarters coverage. The challenge of it is a lot of it, you're borrowing those two safeties in the run game, and they have designated run fits. So what that means is there's a potential gap. So if you bring a tight end across at the snap, split flow action, then the safety has to add into a particular fit. What the challenge is that, teams that run hard play action, the teams that run RPO, oftentimes those safeties are activated by their keys in the run game. Because at the end of the day, you still have to stop the run game in order to have any success. We all know that you'll die a slow death, lose the time of possession battle, most likely lose the turnover battle because you're chasing points. But what I did see is that in that quarters coverage, when an offensive formation goes to a 3 receivers on one side to a 1 receiver on the other side, in college football, we call it a 3-by-1 formation. What you have to do is you have to borrow that backside safety from the boundary, and he's going to cross key. What that means is if he sees number 3 releasing vertically down the middle of the field, he's got to take away that vertical threat also while he's checking his run fit. And I think that first explosive touchdown down the middle field that everybody's on number 34 about, I think, and that's what you keep hearing about, that clip right there, it was more about his initial angle. And if you can wind that back, you can see to the very beginning of it, that initial angle wasn't deep enough. He needed to have a drastic angle, realizing that it's a pass Keefe read, high hats from the offensive line, and then beeline at a high angle. So you can see that's a typical quarter shell. You can see that's 3-by-1 in a bunch set on the left-hand side. So that boundary safety 34 has a run responsibility because that tight end can go backside in the run game and block the backside defensive end. So they add a number that safety's got to get in. But if you let it play, he's got to get on his horse at a high angle and almost turn into a deep safety. And there's two things that I've learned over the course of being an offensive coordinator and being around tremendous defensive minds, which I believe Andy Avalos and Spencer Danielson absolutely are, is number one, you got to play top down. You have to play top down. You got to take the roof and protect the living crap out of it. That's what you have to do. Second thing is that you have to set an edge. And I think this particular week against UCF, to give a preview, is setting the edge is going to be of the utmost importance. Not only setting the edge in the run game, like whatever's right outside the tackle or tight end, but the new edge in college football over the last 20 years is the bubbles, the RPOs. And so you have to keep an edge to the defense and funnel everything back into your help. And I think those are the two things: is you got to keep the roof protected. You got to play top down. And you got to be able to set the edge.
The receivers, I know Prince had like 17 targets. That's crazy. I don't know if you ever targeted one receiver 17 times in your career, Coach. I wonder who that receiver would have been. I know there were some drops fans were talking about. You've coached receivers, the position really well. What was your assessment of the receiving corps for Boise State on Saturday?
I think there were ups and downs. I think that they made some challenging, what I would call inaccurate throws that I think, did keep the chains moving at times. I think there were some balls that certainly should have been caught. I've dealt with that my whole career as a play caller. I think, beating them up, telling them that they got to catch the ball. I mean, they're doing everything they can. I know for a fact that at Boise State, they're working extremely hard with grabbing it, rice grabs. They get into rice buckets and work grip strength. That's a Boise State staple. Catching tennis balls for hand-eye coordination, tons of balls before and after practice. And I promise you, Matt Miller is working on that with those guys, and he's a tremendous football coach. I think sometimes it's the magnitude of it all. You're asking players that haven't really been the guy with Caples being out to be the guy. And I think that you're doing it in an environment that was very challenging. We're just watching it in our own living room. It looks really easy. You got to catch it. There's a lot more going on: communication, getting off on the snap, getting rerouted by a secondary player, and then flipping your head around and the ball's on you. I mean, certainly that's what they do, and they do it really well. I expect to see a really improved receiving core in this game against UCF at home.
And lastly, before we get to some stuff, some sponsors, and dive into UCF, the cleat situation. I know you saw the presser. I don't know if you noticed Boise State players feel like they slipped a little more on the turf, couldn't exactly get their footing. What did you make of, I guess it's cleat gate here in Boise?
It's not the first time it's happened, in college football. I've been around it myself. I think that some of it is, maybe even the nerves of it all, like just being like your mind's going 1,000 miles a minute, and then your feet are, not necessarily underneath you. You have literally sea legs, if you will. But I've also been around it where there's, years of Nike cleats that have been issued. Everybody wears a different type of cleat within the Nike family. They're all issued out at the same time to all teams. And I think that those are adjustments that will be made. And it sounds like UW had replaced that turf in 2021. We played there last year. I didn't notice anything particularly about that turf. I thought it was very standard in the conference, maybe a little bit nicer. But I didn't see anything with regards to, what may have happened with that turf.
All right. Shout out to Row Paint, the official paintings coating company of Boise State Athletics. Love those guys. They sponsor our studio at KTIK, and they do a ton of stuff for Bronco Nation News. They even fixed up the floor of Leon Rice's garage. So good stuff there. Always appreciate what Row Paint is doing. And Blue and Orange Store, where's that Sanford #2 throwback? Where's that 99 Scott Matlock LA Chargers jersey? Well, I bet the Matlock's at the Blue and Orange Store. Can't say much for the Sanford yet, but yeah, you're going to need to gear up. And when you do, check out the Blue and Orange Store. I don't know if I ever saw a debut, Coach. I'm even tongue-tied trying to talk about Prime and what I saw. It was the first game, that 10 a.m. window, and, basically everything he said he wanted to do, it felt like I saw. The Travis Hunter kid, my God, man, I had to look at his Heisman odds during the game and place a bet. You were there last year. I know the turnover is completely different, but you've been in college football for so long. That might have been the finest debut for a big-time college football coach that I've ever seen in my life. What the hell did you make? You're in Boulder right now. You were in the locker room last year of Prime going 1-0 and taking out TCU like that, man.
It was bananas. I mean, you nailed it when you said it, Johnny. And that was the thing that came to my mind. And even talking to coaches in the industry, I didn't really take a hardline stance either way about how CU was going to do this year, because frankly, none of us knew. And nobody knew how good these skill players were. You're looking at really, effective skill players from South Florida. Obviously everybody knows Travis Hunter, but, even watching the Celebration Bowl, you're watching, Travis Hunter and Shedeur, and they're playing good football, but this was like on a different level. They looked better against TCU in Fort Worth, a team that played for a national title last year.
Isn't that crazy?
Shedeur and Travis Hunter literally looked better than they did in the Celebration Bowl. They played with such an incredible amount of confidence. And where I tip my hat to Deion Sanders, because I think all of us would say that the way he was speaking about his team was brash. It was arrogant. It was overconfident. It literally all came true. I mean, every single thing that he said came true. I mean, even going back to when he said that I'm bringing my Louis at the very first team meeting. I mean, they played like Louis. They did. And not all that far away from the expensive malls in the DFW Metroplex. I mean, it truly was absolutely mind-blowing. And kudos to Sean Lewis, the offensive coordinator, for getting a collection for getting a collection of players that were all new in short period of time. Like they went on a normal vacation in July, like every coach does, to the best of my knowledge. But for them to be able to maximize and optimize their time, they didn't just have a new roster in January. They had another half of a roster come in June and July. Wow. And so the way they maximize their time, what I'm seeing is this is going to become, whether you like it or not, this is the new college football norm. Deion Sanders changed college football forever.
Yep.
Because
same way.
This is a copycat endeavor. Everything in college football, athletic directors see something, they're like, we want to do that. And so it's going to be hire a big time name to be an instant recruiting magnet. And that's who Deion Sanders was. And then put in sound schemes, but not overly complex Andy Reid 37-word play calls. And then go get a bunch of skill players. Ton of skill players, get receivers that can do it. Travis Hunter, Xavier Weaver, Jimmy Horn Jr., and then go get a running back that runs a 10-2, and Dylan Edwards is a true freshman, scores 4 touchdowns, has over 100 yards receiving, and then just go let him eat. And that's what college football is going to be. The portal is king, and it proved out twice this weekend with G.J. Kinney and what he did. Texas State going in. Yes. Yeah. Texas State with 67 new roster players, first-year head coach, going in and beating the Baylor Bears, who, by the way, won a New Year's Six bowl game, the Sugar Bowl, just 2 years ago with the same head coach, same staff. 67 new players. CU has 87 new players. And they go in and I mean, it was a track meet on a team that went to the CFP championship last year. Mind-blowing, caps off.
And I don't want to hear, well, they're not good this year. Bull crap. Of course they are. They're fine. They shouldn't be losing to a team with 70 new players. I totally get what you're saying. For me, it's like, Deion is taking advantage of this new era better than anybody else is. Mm-hmm. Like, he's the first one that's figured out, okay, I can do this. I can do that. Well, I'm a big enough name, a big enough brand where, yeah, I can do that. I don't even know if you're around Boulder right now. I don't even know if Colorado is going to be big enough for what Deion is trying to build, and he will build it. I don't know if it's buildable in CU. I have a feeling in 3.5 months, mid-December, we're going to see Deion on a plane in the middle of the night landing in the SEC somewhere, and they're going to say, okay, 12, 14 million a year, Prime. Here are the keys to everything. Where does the Louis go? We want in on the business of Prime. Colorado, I don't know how you're going to hold this. The Big 12, nice league. Is Deion going to want to do that? Is he going to want to go to Ames, Iowa? I don't know. He might say, I need the SEC. This brand, I've never seen anything like it in college athletics. And it's because you have the portal. You have, and he's not even, I don't want to say he's not a coach, but he's more of a CEO than he is a head football coach. He orchestrates the entire plan. I mean, I'm sure he is coaching. I'm sure he's telling the hell out of those cornerbacks what to do. He's got the best one in America, it looks like, in Hunter. So I'm sure he's learning and learning well, but obviously it feels to me like it's just an approach that we've never seen before. And I bought in hook, line, and sinker. Not that they're going to win the national title. They don't even have to. It's like people are talking about him. And in college football, that's almost as good as winning games. The recruits that he's going to get, Coach, I mean, and they'll go to Boulder. Coach, they go to Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
They already did. They already went to Boulder. At least. Yeah,
he already got him.
We didn't coach Xavier Weaver, Jimmy Horn Jr., and Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Edwards a year ago. That's a reality.
No, you didn't.
I mean, and it's obviously Deion is such a unique individual because of his cultural relevance. Like guys like you and me that grew up in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Like my wife asked me, like, hey, what do you think about Deion when you were a kid? I'm like, dude, he was like the most incredible athlete I've ever seen. Like Bo Jackson was like an appetizer for what was to come with Deion Sanders.
Kinda. I mean,
really. I mean, the guy hit a home run and scored a touchdown in the same day.
That was badass.
I mean, who does that in Major League Baseball and the National Football League? So I think the big thing is just the cultural relevance of him, not just to the young people, because he stayed very relevant culturally with the young people, the recruitable athletes.
He's cool, man.
Parents too. I mean, that's a reality.
Think about that. Who's cooler? Who is Deion cooler to? The kid he's recruiting or the kid's parents? It's probably the parents, and it's close. Like that guy is forever cool, man. And
yeah, I mean, all I know is here in Colorado, and it obviously wasn't the easiest thing for me. I was the interim head coach, but for the last 8 months, I can't find an 8 to 13-year-old in the Colorado area not wearing Prime gear. I mean, it's everywhere. That's all. I mean, literally, you cannot find, and I'm talking across all demographics. It is everywhere, and that was before he did what he did on Saturday. I mean, it's
Coach. Sweatshirt I saw said Prime, like my Vin shirt, and then Colorado in little letters down here. Go Buffs! They said that athletic director very intelligently said we want to do Prime. Okay, it is hip to Prime right now, and that's what we're gonna do. And I can't wait to see where this goes. And, we'll get to them in our pick 6. They play Nebraska. Remember all those Colorado-Nebraska games me and you grew up with like, Tom Osborne versus Bill McCartney and all that stuff? Like this is going to have that feel. I can't even imagine you're there. It's in Folsom. That game, that atmosphere, the Big Noon kickoff's going to be there. Coach, I mean, can you describe what you think that scene is going to be like?
Well, I'm going to be there.
You going?
I'm going. Yeah. So, I've never done this before. Obviously, I've never gone to a game after I was fired at the place. But I'm gonna put my big boy pants on. I'm gonna go to the game. The guy that built our house has become a really good friend of ours. He has a suite and invited me 6 months ago. Invited my wife, and he basically told me if I don't go, I'm soft. Like I'm just not a man's man if I don't face it. So I committed to it 6 months ago, and I'm actually really excited to go back. And I absolutely love Folsom Field. It'll be electric. But I will say this, Johnny, you just talked about the old Nebraska, Bill McCartney versus I'm drawing a blank on my man, Tom Osborne. How can I forget that? My goodness. This is not going to be your father's or grandfather's CU Nebraska game. I mean, we saw 510 passing yards. This is not triple option wishbone football and 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And then every once in a while, faking the option and dropping back. This isn't Air Force Navy. This is going to be, a high gas out. I mean, there's going to be a lot of output in that stadium.
Pac-12. 13-0. Not one team has lost yet. Before we get to the UCF clips and you tell Bronco Nation how scared it should be of JRP coming to town, Coach, just your thoughts. You've coached a lot in the Pac-12, multiple programs over the years. It's the conference you grew up in. You love that league. And what have you seen so far from the Pac-12?
Impressive. I mean, we saw it firsthand as Bronco Nation. And that's a team that's probably not even necessarily the clear-cut favorite right now in the Pac-12, certainly at the top. But, you throw into the mixes, the USC, Oregon State looked fantastic against San Jose State yesterday. Utah, I mean, just really embarrassing a Florida Gator program with just how they physically manhandled them without their starting quarterback. I just think that the Pac-12 right now is in its absolute best year, maybe in the last 25 years. And it's so sad it's the last year.
Yeah. I don't even know what I'm going to do when that happens. Just kind of waiting for the end to come. We don't know what it's going to look like, but we know it's coming is one of those things. And I just don't know how bittersweet it's going to be if the conference keeps having the success it has this year. Maybe gets that first team in the CFP since 2016 when Chris Peterson got Washington there. Like, it feels like it's all going to be bittersweet, but it is a damn exciting conference to watch this year. I'm going to be glued to some Pac-12 stuff. Coach, part of the show, Ball Talk, Sanford and Johnny, we want to preview ahead, and we want you to give Bronco Nation some type of look, some type of feel, some type of up, and obviously UCF on the Blue Saturday 5 p.m. I believe on FS1. You have some clips you put together, and I don't know your relationship with Gus Malzahn. I had it on my notes. I wanted you to tell the listeners maybe before we even go to the clips what you do know about UCF and any history you have with Gus Malzahn or anybody else on that staff. And then when you're ready, man, let's roll it. Let's roll UCF.
Yeah, so Gus Malzahn and I have never met, have very little connections to him. The only connection I really do have is through Eli Drinkwitz. Drink and him worked in high school together, and then Arkansas State, and even Auburn as I think a QC. So there were some aspects of what the Brian Harsin, Mike Sanford, Eli Drinkwitz system really took on that really were infusions of Gus Malzahn's system. Very unique play caller, although this year he has given it up to Darren Hinshaw. So the system has changed. What I would say is that Gus Malzahn's been known for running the quarterback. Obviously, you think back to the Cam Newton days. Gus Malzahn likes to use the numbers advantage of getting the quarterback in the run game. Yep. But what they're doing with this John Reese Plumlee is unbelievable. Let's roll that tape. Yeah, I think Darren Hinshaw, who just came in, Kent State, highly overmatched team, but you could see kind of early in this game, what we're going to see is more of an active pass rush from UCF's defensive front, whereas Washington was stout, thick. This is more of an active pass rush. Okay, this is John Reese Plumlee. You can see how decisive he is as a runner on a called pass play. They have designed run plays for him, but you can see on pass plays that break down, he's very, very quick. I love this play design. I love John Reese Plumlee, the block by the tight end. That's essentially split zone, bluff zone read. I think that's a concept that Boise State ran very well at the end of last season. You're reading the defensive end here. It looks like your tight end is coming to block him and hand the ball off. He bluffs him. The quarterback reads that end. And then really that was more of a give read, but John Reese Plumlee said, I can beat that defensive end with speed, and he sure did. See John Reese right here. I saw a little bit of his escapability, but what I do see even on this clip is as dynamic as he looks, the ball is out there. The ball security appears to be an issue, and I think that Boise State needs to find a way to get their hands on a few balls, and here's a great clip of that. This early on, he gets carefree with the football. He feels like Superman because he makes people miss. He doesn't get brought to the ground very easily. I think that's a time where you can see where Boise State will have opportunities to get John Reese Plumlee in compromising situations to cough up the football. You can see just a bit careless here. Didn't, really should tuck that football or really have two firm hands on it. I thought that's one play in particular that I think gives our defense hope to get back to who we are, which is to get takeaways on the blue. Kent State, you can see RPO. So I think that they're in their front inside. Their linebackers are very active downhill, but you can see that RPO does open up in that second level, which is run pass option. I thought this was a really good catchable ball with the safety coming over the top. I don't think he has the plus arm talent anywhere near Michael Penix Jr., but he throws appropriate balls in probably more of those mid kind of intermediate type zones, extending plays, just called drop back pass, attacks downhill, but you can see balls in harm's way. Pick for Kent State for us to do what we want to do and get back that magic that we have on the blue. We're going to have to make John Reese Plumlee give us the football. And you can see this is another example of him, throwing a go route late. And one of my rules with quarterbacks over all the years was don't use go routes as a check down. So he's already flushed the pocket. And you can see this corner does a good job of sticking and plastering. And he throws that ball up, underthrown. I think there's going to be some opportunities for our back end to go up and high point some footballs.
Don't use go routes on a check down. I love it.
All right, here's this is a famous Gus Malzahn staple. This is straight from the Gus Malzahn playbook. He calls it fight song. So it's a tempo play where you line up the tight end as a tackle, and then basically he's lined up in a tackle's position. You get tackle over and you do it tempo. And if they don't recognize it, you can see so that it's a short porch, the center and the left guard. That's all it's there. As you let it play out, there's confusion on the back end. Safety doesn't know who to cover. And all of a sudden, there you go. That's called fight song. So Boise State will be ready for that play. I promise you that. We ran that in 2014 a couple times to Drink's request. I think overall UCF's a team that has a ton of speed, a ton of playmakers. It all starts with John Reese Plumlee. Where we need to take advantage of our opportunities is swiping at the football, getting hits on them, wrapping up, get the second guy there. Wrap up and the second player gets there. That's where the strip's got to come from. I do think that there's speed in the perimeter. It's a different caliber of receiver than I think they had it at Washington a week ago. But I do see that this is a team that is very confident. They're still working through a little bit of the Darren Hinshaw coordinator transition. It's not a completely similar system, but I do think that there's opportunities for us on the defensive side of the ball to get turnovers. And ultimately we know what happens on the blue when you get the ball loose. We're going to take advantage of it. I can see that happening.
The John Reese Plumlee kid. I mean, I don't know if people know this too. When he was a freshman, he ran for 1,000 yards playing at Ole Miss in the SEC. He was a quarterback who ran for 1,000 yards. Last year, Gus put the brakes on a little bit. I think he finished around 800, but he had passing stats to go with it. I mean, he is one of the most dangerous dual threats at that position in the country. Coach, his game, he kind of reminds me of Russell Wilson, where he can ad-lib, and he's sometimes you just want his instincts to take over. Now, there's going to be bad that comes with that, and you detailed that. His ball security, sometimes he thinks that, he's on cloud nine and no one can stop him, and the game will catch up with him a little bit. But the way he selects, when he runs, it was like early Seattle Russ, where he was a lot quicker to say, boom, if you give me this, I'm not the fastest guy, but I'm fast enough, and I'm going to be a huge pain in your ass on foot. And that's what JRP is. I mean, he's a mega pain in the ass on foot, Coach. And, I mean, he can pitch the ball around a little bit, too. I mean, not like Penix, like you said, but, I mean, what's going through Spencer Danielson and Andy Avalos' head this week as they look at the tape on this freaking kid?
Well, I think that there's a bit of relief because Michael Penix Jr. is truly one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. And not just that, but he's surrounded by arguably the deepest and most threatening downfield receiving cores in all of college football. This is a horse of a different color. This is about playing, I think, assignment sound football. When he does extend plays, I think having some player that's really deemed to be a spy player, take away that space, but have appropriate distance to the quarterback so that you can extend those plays. And then the back end's got to plaster. You can't have eye violations. You got to stay plastered on, which means when he extends a play, breaks the pocket, you've got to glue yourself on like a plaster to that receiver. And I think if we do that, I think it's going to be, I think, a game plan that I think we're suited for. I really do. I think that this is more your standard college football, less true vertical shots. And I think they're going to shore up that piece of it. And it's going to be about just being in position to make the tackles. And when you're there, John Reese Plumlee is just, he doesn't look overly dynamic when you watch him run, but he's slippery. He's deceptively fast. And he's played
got
a lot
that
of football.
Russell Wilson crap to him,
man.
Like
when you said that, Johnny, I'm like, dude, there's no way. I'm like, I've been watching Russell Wilson in Denver, man. It looks nothing like him. But then I think about Russell Wilson. Think about Wisconsin, Oregon, Rose Bowl Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah, I smell you now on that, Johnny.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the comp.
Just decisiveness.
Absolutely. Shout out to Lithia Ford. Hey, on Friday at 11 a.m., I believe, Jay Tust and BJ Rains are going to be broadcasting BNN Live from Lithia Ford of Boise. So make sure you hit that up. Great stuff going on. Always wonderful deals. If you're going to support BNN and you really want to support them, you're going to drive a vehicle purchased at Lithia Ford. They do a terrific job, as we all know, and this company, holy shnikes, Sanford, they put their name on everything sports in the state of Idaho. ICCU, gotta love what those guys are doing as well. Shout out to the sponsors that help make this show. Sanford,
first ever home I bought, I financed through ICCU, man, in Boise, Idaho.
Gotta have you read these next week, then,
no,
dude.
I'm not there yet, man. I'm just a greenhorn. I'm just learning from the champ.
Greenhorn. All right, a couple other things before we get into our pick six, Coach. Just a couple other questions. Like, it feels to me like on the surface, and this is kind of a talk show host, shock jock, fans take, but I look at the pressure that's on this staff and this program at the top. Andy Avalos. People are throwing out the stat. Well, he's 9-8 without Dirk Cutter. He's 8-5 on the blue. You've been in very pressure-filled situations, man, as a head coach where you knew you had to win or you're getting fired at Notre Dame on some massive opportunities. He's had to win. What's it like as a coaching staff? Couple parts. A, do you feel this staff is under the pressure that I'm suggesting? And B, your experience, you had the most pressure felt. And did you end up winning, losing those games? Pressure, Coach.
Yeah, I think there's three games that stand out to me. I think in Boise State 2014, and this is a reason I want to tell Bronco Nation to support your guys because, we were 2-2, lost to Ole Miss in a fairly similar game. It was a neutral site game, but it was in the South. It was Chick-fil-A or one of those type of preseason games, and we lost by I think 2-3 scores, 3 maybe. And then week 4, we lose to Air Force, and we're 2-2 football team. And that next game against Nevada was one of those games, where you had to pull out all the stops. You had to motivate your team, but you also had to do it in a way that didn't make your team feel like you were panicked. And that would be my advice, just on stuff that I've learned, is just continue to be yourself. Continue to work your tails off to put them in the best position to be successful, and then just call it with conviction on both sides of the ball. Call what you call and do so with conviction. Your players will see that and they'll feel that. And I would also say this, another game that hits me, and at Minnesota, my second year there, we played Wisconsin, hadn't beaten them in 20 years. The season was a bit uneven. We were upset in a very insanely surprising upset at Bowling Green, beat us at home. And that was literally rock bottom of my career. And that Nebraska game felt like one of those, or that Wisconsin game felt like one of those type of games. And, the battle for Paul Bunyan's axe. And, the bottom line is that you just have to continue to just care for these players, continue to demand, but love them. I think that's a huge piece of it. And I know this staff is well equipped for that. So I'm excited to watch that response and that resolve. And, part of that response and resolve is coaches. Part of that response and resolve is players. But a lot of that response and resolve is all of us, me, fans. I mean, we set the temperature. What kind of game day atmosphere is it going to be? We all want blue magic. Let's create it ourselves. And I think that this is one of those games where, it does kind of feel like Custer's last stand in regards to the fan base. Let's show up, show out. What else is there better to do at 5:00 on Saturday in Boise, Idaho, and create the most ruckus environment in college football?
I love it, man. Ball talk, Sanford and Johnny. BJ, get on in here. Let's get our pick six going. Give everybody an update of where we were last week and what we have coming on this week, my friend. I'm loving it.
How we doing, guys? How we doing? Great show.
Not
Always appreciate you guys allowing me to jump on here at the end. You guys are doing a great job as always. And I know, Johnny, you're in a little better mood because you're dominating the picks, man. 2 weeks in, you're already asking for the size of that jersey, I think, from Mike. But Johnny's off to a nice start. Johnny, you were 3-1, I guess 5-1 overall. Clemson's not going to cover for you, though, I don't think.
Let's
right?
go.
Nope, give them a loss, Clemson. I took
What's the score of that game? Can I get a score update, BJ Rance?
I need some sort of
21-7 Duke.
Let's go. Mike Elko and the boys. You underestimated him, Johnny. You underestimated him.
I think his breakdown of the game was this is football, not basketball. And he went with Clemson, and that did not work out. So Mike, you went 2-2 this week. You got the BSU game wrong, but you went 2-2. And you're 3-4 overall. How you feeling about 2 weeks in, Mike?
Well, I've spent the last 18 years not gambling. So I feel pretty good that I'm not good at gambling. So that the NCAA, they can't go back retroactively and look at me and say, this guy really knows how to sports bet. So I feel really good about that in terms of my moral compass.
There we go. Johnny, you are 5-2 then, I guess. So you hold a 2-game edge through 2 weeks over Mike Sanford. And I'll tell you what, Mike, Johnny was off air. I mean, he feels pretty confident this is going to be a pretty big, wide, thing that's over here, well before the season ends. He's pretty confident he's going to be able to get you in this. So you gotta turn the tides here, Mike. You need a big week 3.
Well, we've all learned that Johnny, he likes to be a little bit emotional and quick to react, and he likes to anoint. Even his comments on Coach Prime. I mean, this guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer now all of a sudden after one ball game, Johnny. I mean, we got a lot of football left. There's a lot of ball to be had, so let's take it 1 week at a time. Johnny Mallory.
We're going with the Circa lines, as we always are. Friends at Circa Sports, sponsors of our pick six here. We make 3 picks. You can pick your own games, your own over-under, your own spread, and then there will be a pick on the Boise State game as well at the end. John Mallory, you are in first place. We'll give you first pick here for your game.
I had to look at the line 2 and 3 times. Double check.
You're frozen on my screen, Johnny.
I am taking the Oregon Ducks -6.5 at Texas Tech. I don't know if I'm reading that right, BJ.
I saw the same line.
Dan Lanning and the Ducks are going to roll over Texas Tech that's just hung over from a party in Laramie in overtime. They got Andrew Peasley, coach. Go Pokes. I love Oregon beating Texas Tech at Jones Stadium by 7 points or more. This is the biggest, easiest, peasiest for me. Take Oregon, lay the 6.5. The Ducks are going to put a pounding on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. I love it.
Mike Sanford, your first pick here.
Well, I got Wisconsin at Washington State in the Palouse. Wisconsin going to the Palouse. And Wisconsin is a 6-point favorite. I don't know if anybody else watched Wisconsin Badgers stumble around in the first 3 quarters against the Buffalo Bulls. I was very unimpressed, and I'm going Washington State after what they did to annihilate my local Rammies of Colorado State in every facet of the game. I think Washington State's a good football team, and my man Cam, the quarterback, he's a dude, and I think he's going to have a heck of a game. Wisconsin will not be able to keep up scoring-wise.
Okay, we
love all the I love it. Loves all his places, loves all his conferences. I love how connected Coach Sanford is. Hopefully it's enough to take a lead on the Picks 6, Coach. I'm going with Texas A&M in South Beach to take on Miami. This is not the U, Miami. Let Mario get time to try to get this thing going. I think we're going to see the dividends being paid weekly with Jimbo Fisher just saying to hell with it. I don't care how sleazy he might be. I'm going to hire Bobby Petrino to run my offense because it's going to work. Petrino's an excellent coordinator. We've all seen him at stops. I think A&M's going to have the talent. The spread is 4 points. I think A&M means business this year. I'm buying into what Jimbo's going to sell me. There's no way they're going 4-8 again this season. Take A&M to beat Miami in Miami. There'll be 36,000 people there, maybe in Hard Rock Stadium now. This is going to be easy. There might be more A&M fans at this game than Miami fans. Give me Jimbo -4 against the U.
I like where this is going, man. I really like where this is going this week for me. I think that the Bobby Petrino, Jimbo Fisher relationship explodes on national TV and down in Miami because it is a ticking time bomb in my humble opinion. I'll tell you this. All right. Tulsa. They go to Washington. They're going to Seattle. I don't know if anybody watched any bit of Tulsa this opening week. It was bad football. Washington has 33.5 points. 56-19, if my math is correct, is 37 points against the class of the Mountain West Conference. I'm going Washington, and if I could go 70 points, I would do it if Kalen DeBoer would leave the dogs in there. And as we saw, Kalen's not afraid to leave the dogs in there a little longer than you want to. So I'm going Washington, 33.5, book it.
I thought about that one, Coach. It's just, I mean, if Kalen and Grubb and Penix want to cover that, they'll cover it. I just wonder if it might be a backdoor, maybe some late Tulsa touchdowns. What is G.J. Kinney's brother on this team? Can he bail me out in this?
Steve Spurrier Jr. Steve Spurrier Jr. is the offensive coordinator at Tulsa.
I love it, man. I love it.
That's my guy, man. I just brand new system, new year. Just challenges of being a new coordinator and new year going, especially to Seattle.
Going to struggle in Seattle. All right, I'm going to go SEC versus the Pac-12. This is such a rare opportunity. These programs, these conferences never play in the non-con. Go look it up historically. They just rarely do. Cal looked impressive. Justin Wilcox, who Mike Sanford Jr. knows very, very well. Cal surprised me against North Texas. They really did. They looked good. That's why they are only a 6.5 point underdog versus Auburn. Auburn's the SEC. There is such a difference in size, in speed, in skill, in coaching salaries, in, I don't know, money to pay the strippers on recruits, whatever the case is. Auburn only has to cover 6.5. I think Auburn, Cal, Wilcox, love you. Great week one, tearing up Conference USA. Welcome to the SEC, Auburn. And they're at a point right now as a program, they have to kick ass, especially against teams like Cal. They have such a maniacal fan base. They can't just win. Like, they have to embarrass the other team, and I think they will. And they won't even have to do that to cover this spread. Give me Auburn minus 6.5 against Cal. You'll laugh all the way to the bank.
I like that pick. I do. I got one win last year, and it was against the Cal Golden Bears. The Atlantic Coast Conference bound Cal Golden Bears. Nothing.
That was your guys' win when you had that passion-filled post-game speech, Coach. It was, you almost made me cry. That was
you
against
did.
Cal.
You tried. You be honest. You can say that you had some goosebumps and you were in tears. I get it.
You give great speeches to the teams, man. I've seen them over the years. I think there's a part, that's a big part of coaching, I think, and you do that quite well, Coach.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I got the one I'm going to be at physically, and I'm not going to Herb Street this and say that I'm not going to be able to predict this game because I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there, and it's Nebraska at Colorado. Now, Nebraska, very impressed by the improved line play, toughness, physicality that I had talked about 2 weeks ago before their opener against Minnesota. In fact, I did pick Nebraska +7, and that ended up being one of my good picks that went through for the good guys. I think that they're tremendously improved football team. I just think there's no way there's a snowball in Arizona's chance of Nebraska, led by Jeff Sims, quarterback, to be able to keep up with the scoring of Colorado. And Colorado's only favored by 3.5. I think this thing could get ugly, and I think it could get ugly in the third quarter, really ugly. So I'm going CU big over Nebraska.
All right, before we get to the Boise State picks, it is your final chance to get a comment or a question in for Coach Mike Sanford. Question, as Johnny said, that's a good way to do it. Preference your question with the word question so we can see it. Final chance. We'll get to the couple final questions here in our mailbag as we wrap up the show after these picks. So Johnny's got the Oregon Ducks -6.5, Texas A&M -4, Auburn -6.5. Mike Sanford has Wazoo -6.5, Washington -33.5, and Colorado -3.5. Is that correct for both of you guys there?
The only one I would say is that Wisconsin is favored in that game.
Oh, you're taking Wazoo +6.5.
Yes.
My bad. Got the wrong thing on there. All right,
Wazoo. I know the two of you guys are always trying to get me, trying to prove that you radio and journal, print journalists are smarter than us football guys. Right? I know your games, Reigns. I know them all. Seen them.
I love it.
All right, Johnny, you want to go first for the Boise State game here?
Yeah, I'll take it. 3.5. All right. I'm not going to be happy to see this happen, but I'm going to take UCF, lay the 3.5. Boise State's going to be 0-2. Everybody's going to talk about the Avalos stats on the blue and without Cutter. And the sky is going to fall, BJ, just like it did last year after they lost to UTEP. And it'll be a back to the drawing board situation. I got UCF 33, Boise State 24. UCF wins by 9. It's closer than Washington, obviously, but I'm taking Gus Malzahn and those guys to come in here, win on the blue, and cover 3.5.
All right, in the first game, Mike Sanford, Johnny took Washington. He was correct. You took Boise State. You were incorrect. Are you going with Boise State again?
I am going with Boise State, and not because I'm alum, not because I'm running for mayor of Boise, not because I want Bronco Nation to love me, but because I'm not overly impressed with UCF with regards to who they've played, how they finished last season. I don't think that this is a team that is on the caliber of anywhere near Washington. I think that them opening up with false confidence against a very bad Kent State football team with regards to 0 returning players on their offensive starting 11. I think that this Boise State team is going to be a matchup issue. And I think they swung the bat in the first week with a donut on the Boise State Broncos did. I think this week they shed that donut, and that bat's going to feel a whole heck of a lot lighter. And I think they're going to come out swinging. I think the defense is going to create turnovers, and I believe Boise State's going to capitalize on them. And I believe that Taylon Green's going to run the rock. Ashton Genty's going to run the rock. George Halani's going to run the rock. And then there's going to be shots over the top. And I believe that this team is prepared to do so against a team in UCF that plays not as physical of a brand of football.
I know my picks don't matter, but I will say I was on the Washington side in the first game, but I am with you, Mike Sanford. I think Boise State, even if the numbers don't say it should happen, even if you don't feel like it should happen, I just think they find a way at home with the new scoreboard, the new lights, the home opener. I got a good feeling. I think Boise State finds a way somehow to win this game. As we check our final questions for Coach Sanford, by the way, there was a comment, and I can't find it, but it said, how did Mike Sanford get fired? This is awesome stuff. Yeah, there it is. Sanford got fired. WTF4, he's fired. Johnny, somebody was ripping on you for your mic, but it looks like you got it fixed, and you saw that.
Yeah, you guys should have let me know I was being
I thought it sounded fine, but migraine material. So D isn't even watching anymore, so it doesn't matter, I guess. D's gone. So thanks for checking us out, D. But if you're watching it later, we got it figured out. Migraine materials is the new phrase for John.
Hey, you see this right here? I guess I'm not such the greenhorn. Do you see the distance of microphone to mic? So he's saying that I'm kind of the pro here. I'm the savvy veteran of radio. Of all of about
3 weeks ahead of me on this mic. We're on the same system.
I smell you on that.
Heck yeah, man. What about changing the sand rant to the mic drop? We had a couple suggest that.
All right. I like that. I like the mic drop. I kind of like the sand rant, you know.
It's up to you.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? This is for the people. Let's let the people decide. We're going mic drop.
Sky Ship with a question. All right, mic drop it is. I like that. Mic drop. How would you limit JRP if you were calling the defense Saturday? Would you unleash Simpson, DJ, some of the linebackers to get in there, or do you just spy them?
You know, I think you let your guys up front pass rush, but you always have to have a player, whether he's a zone player or you're playing man structure, you have to have somebody designated, and he's got to be a sideline-to-sideline player. You know, it's got to be – you know, an athlete that can get him down to the turf. But I think that's going to be really important to have some semblance of a spy player for John Reese Plumlee, because he's already proven whether they call a pass, they call a run, he's a threat. You know, they're going to use triple option football. They're going to use, you know, perimeter bubble game as part of his out. I think that, you know, you always have to have a quarterback player when you play against UCF.
Johnny, go ahead.
I was going to say, hey, Coach, you see what my boy Eck is doing up in Moscow? Go Vandals.
Who'd you guys open with?
Lamar in Beaumont on the road.
Lamar? Is like a French team? Lamar.
Yeah. They're in Beaumont, Texas.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good job, man. Fired up for the Vandals. No, I think they're doing really good stuff up there. And like I said, man, that open game in 2024, the Vandals got to come back down to the blue. We got to make it happen, Johnny.
Is Dion in Clemson, South Carolina in 4 months, Coach? Clemson just lost to Duke in football. How much trouble is Dabo in?
Trouble? Didn't he win a national championship 3 years ago?
Hey, they fired
Ed Orgeron
about 15 months after he won his.
Yeah, Dabo's got a little bit different track record and history at Clemson, so I'd let the season play out. I thought Duke won 9 games last year, if I'm not mistaken. They're
really like quarterback.
A lot of great comments. We'll wrap it up with this. Guy says, BJ, give Coach Sanford a raise or whatever he wants. Maybe the keys to the Circa limo. This is straight fire. A lot of great comments, Mike, on the breaking down the film study. One guy said he thought he knew something about football till he watches this show and finds out he knows nothing. But great stuff as always. We'll keep the comments coming. They'll get to them next week. And appreciate everybody that chimed in on the chat there. So, guys, great show as always, and I'll let you finish up.
Good stuff. Season 1, episode 4, and Coach, the first episode where we really wanted to show the audience exactly what we want this show to be, with a lot of videos, a lot of scheme talk, a lot of chalk talk, that type of thing. And they're going to get better from here on out. I got this new equipment here. I got this new self-made studio I'm working with. This is going to be a lot of fun, man. I can't wait. And another week. It's going to be crazy. You're going to be in Boulder. That's going to be badass, man.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And, still have a couple players. I think there's the 3 or 4 players that were kept from the entire roster.
Linebacker had a good game.
Marvin Ham played really well. Trevor Woods had a tremendous game. I think he might be the best player on defense. He looks unbelievable as safety. And then, 2 of the starting offensive linemen, Van Wells and Gerard Tank Lichtinen. So I'm going to be rooting those guys on, man. I love those guys. I love what they're doing. I love how they're showing up and showing the country that they can play ball, at the big level. So I'm really, really excited to be at that game, but I will be driving 90 miles an hour on Highway 52 back home to make sure that I don't miss a snap of live Boise State football. And I cannot wait to see the rebound, the response of the Boise State Broncos, players, coaches, and me, and all of you Bronco Nation fans, because that's what I am now, just a fan. But I do like talking ball with Johnny. So it's been a great show, man.
All right, next Monday, 8 p.m., Ball Talk with Sanford and Johnny right here on BNN and YouTube. And appreciate you guys watching the show. We will catch you next week. Talk to you soon, Coach. Well done.
We'll see you, man. Go Broncos.
The biggest pro football contest in Vegas